I think we could all say we're a little bit tired of fad dieting. It's pretty outdated, right? Now we're all trying to find sustainability. How do we do this for a long time? And I've got some of the golden rules here. Some of the rules we haven't figured out, but what's the opposite of fad dieting? Well, it's probably going to Taco Bell, okay? But don't hate me on the shirt, it's kind of a joke. Point is, we need to find what works for us while also capitalizing on what we know works as far as science generally speaking. So let's just go ahead and jump into the very first one, which is one that you probably know. Eating protein when you're hungry. This is one of the simplest rules. If you do not want to have to subscribe to a specific diet tribe, if you want to enjoy your life and enjoy food, but still lose fat and still get in great shape, this is probably the pinnacle rule. Instead of running into the pantry and grabbing anything that's there, just make a conscious note. If I don't want to have to fad diet, I should select that meat stick, or I should cook up an egg or a hard-boiled egg or a protein shake. It's one of the simplest things. And for me, as someone that quite frankly did spend years doing different kinds of diets, especially when I was struggling with my own weight loss, I'll tell you, like now, especially maintaining, this is key. It is everything. If I start snacking on something else, then I invariably end up eating a lot more. Number two, if you want to get off the hamster wheel of fad dieting, you're just tired of it, you need to pay attention to energy flux. You need to stop being restrictive. You can be selective, but not restrictive. Let that sink in. There's a significant difference between restricting and selecting. You can choose nutritious foods. You can choose things that are good for you, and you can avoid things that are not too good. But we want to avoid terminology like bad foods or good foods. We want to nutritious, less nutritious, more nutritious, because that is the viability here. Like, what is the value of this food? So what is energy flux? Well, that suggests that you eat more and you move more. Here's what's funny. If you're eating close to the earth and you're not eating processed food and you're eating in a naturalistic fashion, so to speak, you're gonna probably not overeat a whole lot. I mean, you could, but you're gonna have so much energy, you're gonna wanna move. Eat more, move more. Energy flux suggests that if you eat more and move more, you're gonna burn more calories than if you eat less and move less. It's easier to eat more and move more, but difficult mentally to wrap our heads around it because diet culture has kind of crammed into our heads that if we're not restricting, we're not doing the right thing. So I promise you, load up your plate with a bunch of wholesome eggs and some flax seeds and some veggies and see what happens to your energy. But don't load it up with Pop-Tarts and syrup and waffles. Number three, carbohydrates when active. Doesn't mean you don't have them when you're not active, but we have to remember that our bodies function just fine without carbohydrates, and that does not mean you need to do keto or low carb. I'm not even pushing that at all here. What I'm suggesting is that we know the body operates just fine without them, but where they do come into a little bit of service is, well, the more active we are, the more we do tend to use them. I definitely notice a difference, like in at least peak performance, peak power, if I'm not having a few carbs, but it doesn't bother me because I don't mind not training at peak performance all the time. But my point in saying this to you is if you want to get off that hamster wheel of restriction and really get on the right train of selection, you choose carbs more when you're more active. And maybe you choose a little more protein and slightly more fats or something like that when you're less active. Carbs are designed to be burned. I mean, that's kind of what they are. It's glucose, it's fuel. So you might as well use it. Your brain is a glucose hog, so maybe you're using it with your brain. That's fine too. But if you're going to be active, it's especially important. The next one is a touchy one, and it might ruffle feathers because there's not tons of concrete data behind it. Charles Poliquin used to talk about it a lot, and he made some enemies talking about it, but he also got a lot of followers talking about it back in his day. And unfortunately, it's mainly rodent model and mechanistic stuff that we look at with it, but there's something called the Randall cycle, and it truly does suggest that combining fats and carbohydrates in high amounts together is not the best thing. And I've talked about this before. It's kind of like, it's interesting because if you were to break down, let's say you had a sandwich that was on really good bread, okay? And then you had mayonnaise and you had cheese and you had turkey and you had veggies in it. A lot of people would eat that sandwich and they say, oh, this is like a cheat meal, right? When in reality, if you broke down the ingredients individually, some lean turkey, some veggies, and a healthy, cleaner carb. Like, what's bad about that? But suddenly when they're combined together, same thing with like a pizza. It's like cheese isn't inherently bad, cheese is great. You could actually have a crust that's not that bad too if you made it right. Then you have the meat. Like, how come all of a sudden when it's melted together as a pizza, it's a cheat meal? And some of it's psychological, but it's also kind of interesting. It's like, how much have we like screwed ourselves in the head thinking this? But then also, like from a mitochondrial standpoint, the body does like to preferentially run on one fuel or the other. So what I tend to do, and again, maybe you're saying, oh, Thomas is going down a diet fad route right here. No, this is just a general rule. If I'm having more carbs, I have a little less fats. If I'm having more fats, I have a little less carbs. It's that simple. I don't like freak out and obsess over it, but I'm like, oh, cool, I'm having a big bowl of fruit and I'm having maybe a, something like with some protein and then maybe a little bit of potatoes. I'm probably not going to add like a bunch of nuts or a bunch of avocado on the side, maybe a small amount, right? So that balance seems to work really well for me, and it's something that I inherently know that doesn't really like mess with my head too much. Number 6, high fiber. I'm telling you, give it a shot. I'm not just talking veggies. I promise you, I tell you, have a little bit of psyllium now and then. Have bread made with psyllium. Have flax crackers, like Flackers. Like there's a great company called Flackers that makes literally just like compressed flax seeds into crackers. Have things like that. Trust me, watch what happens. Okay, people are so afraid of fiber because like so many crowds demonize it. I'm telling you, this is a way to get off that hamster wheel. Little simple things, protein, fiber, moving more. You can get off of this and you can have your life back. It really does make a difference. I also put a link down below for 30% off your entire first grocery order with Thrive Market. Cool news, I created a nut butter, a dessert nut butter with them. I have one that's macadamia nut butter. I have one that's cinnamon Brazil nut butter. Okay, and then I have one that is also chocolate hazelnut. A lot like Nutella, except they're all sweetened with allulose, so they're super low carb, and you still get the polyunsaturated and the monounsaturated fats, especially in the macadamia nut one, but it also just helps us out, right? I created this product, spent 2 years formulating it with Thrive, so if you give it a shot, I'd really appreciate it. So you try that link down below, you'll save 30% off your whole grocery order. Not to mention, they have things like cottage cheese and vegetables. It's a full grocery store now. Legitimately, even fresh, and it's shipped to your doorstep in a day or two. So that link down below, 30% off plus a free $60 gift. Next up, if you're eating whole foods, like good wholesome foods that don't have tons and tons of ingredients that are close to the earth, I argue once again that it'd be hard to overeat. I encourage you to try something for 1 week. Eat as much as you can with wholesome food. Just eat as much as you can. Like seriously, try it. Get some eggs, get some steak, get like good wholesome ingredients. Get a lot of veggies, a lot of fruit, and eat a bunch of it and see what happens. I'm pretty darn sure you're gonna feel a lot better, but I want you to try something else. There's another kind of part 2. Eat as much as you can of it in the morning. See what happens. For breakfast this morning, I had 7 eggs. I know, that's a big breakfast. I had 7 eggs, I had some lox, I had a little bit of macadamia nuts, I had some avocado, and then I had a little bit of fruit, just a tiny bit. That's a lot of calories, right? But here I am like 4 or 5 hours later, I'm not even hungry, like perfectly satiated. I'm busy, I'm filming, my mind is on other things, but one thing that I'm not thinking about is food. Trust me, it seems so like crazy because we live in this moment, but you gotta look at the big wide angle picture here. That big meal is gonna keep you from thinking about food and making cruddy decisions, as long as it's whole foods. This does not apply with a bunch of Pop-Tarts. Next up, you may not want to intermittent fast. It's totally fine. Some people view fasting as a fad diet. Personally, I don't. I think it's a timing system that works great. That actually is the opposite of a fad diet. It allows me to have more flexibility. But I do want you to think of one thing. Okay, in the words of Bradley Pilon, eat, stop, eat. Drill that into your head. Without the snacking, without like the pre-programmed times we need to eat, life is a lot easier. And the fat just kind of melts off. With no dieting, the only rule you set for yourself is I'm going to eat, and then I'm going to stop, and then I'll eat again, and then I'll stop. And sure, you could say I'm gonna eat 30 minutes later, eat, stop, whatever. No, I mean, eat a big meal, stop. Maybe it's 7 hours before you eat again, maybe it's 9, maybe it's 4. But listen to your body, and if you eat the whole foods, You are not manipulating your brain with hyperpalatable garbage, lighting your brain up like 4th of July, making you think you need more food, because that's the problem. If we intuitively listen to our bodies, we run into a problem because our brains are distorted with so many different cues from hyperpalatable foods. Whole foods will bring that back down to earth. What's kind of interesting is that if you were to take a caveman and drop him into today's world, he would have the same problem that we're having today. Okay? It's not that we biologically are a whole lot different. I mean, we have problems for sure. But it's the abundance issue. It's a crisis of abundance. So if you took someone from the past and put them here, they'd end up obese too, because they can't control what's happening in their brain. So it's a real thing. Next up, chase performance. Stop chasing body composition. Body composition should be on your mind. I know some people will say, oh, that's bad. No, that's definitely not a way you want to think. No. Come on. We're real humans here, right? We want to be attracted to one another. We want to feel good. We want to look good. We want to have confidence. And forget the six-pack for a second. I'm talking about just being in shape enough to hold your head up high, hold your chest high, and walk into a room and command the attention of people you want to command the attention of. That doesn't happen when you're feeling cruddy about yourself and you're slunched over and you're depressed and you're not, right? Make those decisions and watch what happens to your body anyway. And then you'll get the body you probably want to begin with. But if you start chasing results with performance, I feel energized. I could go squat today. I'm not brittle. I could go run. I could do anything my heart desires. That is what you're after. And that, my friends, will take the weight off of you, because the exercise, the movement is going to be more powerful than the nutrition once you reach that tipping point. When you're inactive, the nutrition plays all the difference in the world. But once you become more active, it flip-flops. This next one, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. A lot of artificial sweeteners, a lot of things like that. We don't know the answers. Is it easy to eat less with them? Yeah, it is. When I lost a lot of weight, I used some diet soda. Don't get me wrong. I went from drinking 7 to 9 fully leaded Monster energy drinks when I was overweight to drinking the 0 carb ones for a while. And then I switched to Diet Coke, and then I weaned off of that. I lost a lot of weight with it, so don't get me wrong. But we also have to remember that if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Next up, opt for movement over restriction. And this kind of goes in line with what I said before, but if you have a choice of walking and burning 100 calories or starving yourself 100 calories, walk the 100 calories. Next up, micronutrients matter. That is where we fall short, because we are so busy restricting calories that we don't care about the micronutrition, because we have put so much focus on calories, and to a degree, rightfully so, they matter. And we probably do need to have a better fundamental understanding of energy balance at a very young age. I think we should understand, hey, your tank needs fuel, your car needs fuel, hey, you don't need fuel. But with that obsession comes forgetting micronutrition. Focus on micronutrients for a couple weeks and see what happens. And that kind of dovetails into the very last one. The more Franken-Food that it is, the worse that it is. Okay, I know we have technology, but the more that we manipulate our food, the more that we put strain on what we're trying to get out of it. Our body has the ability of getting nutrition in synergizing ways from various foods. If we eat a steak, all the things that are in the steak in a bioavailable form is not the same as a beef protein shake, beef protein shake, right? Because the synergy of the fats, the fibers, the collagens, when I say fibers, I mean the fibers of collagen, okay, the different micronutrients that are there, the minerals, that is a lot of nutrition in one, but it's all designed to be there together. When we start adulterating and manipulating things, just like everything else in life, the more humans get their hands on it, the more we screw it up. I'll see you tomorrow.